My name is Byron Palacios, and I'm being a wildlife consultant and tour leader for Naturetrek for the last nearly 20 years. I'm Ecuadorian and based in West Dorset here in the UK. And well, it's been a pleasure sharing with you another beautiful experience of these virtual slideshows. I'm going to talk to you about a wonderful island, the largest island in the Caribbean region, Cuba. Cuba. Who haven't heard about Cuba? Um, many things come from Cuba, you know, from the famous worldwide famous cigars, rum, salsa, son, bachata, all this kind of fantastic music, to the very famous revolution. So Cuba, it's not just wildlife, it's a lot more. It's a very particular country in terms of what's going on there, and I'm going to take you in a time machine, if that's what we can put it as, and transported you to this beautiful island of Cuba. Cuba stands right in the south tip of 90 miles from the southernmost tip of the USA, Florida. That's the sort of Key West area. It's just a narrow stretch between the USA, I mean Florida in this case, and the northwestern bit of Cuba. Extends along the island, is quite long, extends more or less under 800 miles from northwest to southwest, and a very long highway called the Carretera Central, or the Central Highway. And basically our tour will take us throughout the whole hotspots and as of Cuba. And I know we based the whole tour of in order to see the between 24 and 27 species of birds that Cuba's got, but also there's plenty of the things to see: endemic lizards, butterflies, all sort of beautiful landscapes, and people history, particularly in this island, because they've been left since the revolution years, which took place in 1959. They've been left way behind due to commercial sanctions, blockage from part of the international community. But Cubans have managed to sort it out, and they're still going, living admirably under this obsolete system. We're going to start our journey landing in Havana. A direct flight from the UK put us straight down there in Havana, and after an hour and a half from where we are, you see, of course, landing in Havana, a good hour and a half journey would put us in the northwest area of Pinar del Rio, get us to a very lovely hotel, all quite basic, you know. It looks like a 50s. You see the time has stopped in Cuba in general. So this lovely hotel, like going back in the sort of fancy 50s or 60s holiday resorts, put us in a very comfortable accommodation with lovely balconies and fantastic scenery of the Guira Mountains. All these limestone mountains covered under vegetation, where the idyllic refuge for the Che Guevara, the famous Che Guevara, during the October, the missile crisis in October of 1961. And you can still go there and see his office, where he was living, you know, his bedroom, his kitchen, all under this cave. And we're starting with all the endemics that are quite curious about our visitors, you know, going walking through the trails. This lovely Cuban trogon, the national bird, very common throughout Cuba. You're going to be very surprised how common some of the endemic birds are. Some of them we have to work really hard for them, but most of them are really easy to see. This beautiful great lizard cuckoo is always skulking around any people's garden or on hedges. We have a Cuban green woodpecker, beautiful as well, beautiful and the list goes and goes. Cuban emerald, one of the two species of hummingbirds of the island. Cuban emerald, beautiful. Again, you can see them nearby everywhere. And if you hear while walking this sort of cracking call, it's not the less the beautiful Cuban toady, tiny little bird of the size of a goldcrest, just hopping around the branches beautifully, beautifully. It's just stunning. One of the stars and reasons of visiting this northwest tip of the island is the Cuban solitaire. I know it looks like a real brown job, but it's very important, really, really rare and endangered species, and is found just in this spot in Cuba. Um, but produces a wonderful, wonderful, huge metallic band call that is really easy to hear throughout the woods. Beautiful American kestrels can be also be seen nearby. This is the brown morph, the western spindalis, or tree-striped tanager as well. Stunning little bird, quite coming around. And reptiles. This is a brown anole, one of the water brown anole, one of the water species of local native lizards. Then we're moving on to different huge states, impressive properties left after the revolution. Their owners fled the country after all the revolution, and all these properties became part of the country patrimony. In this case, olive-capped warbler is another of the new endemics that we're going to be looking for. Fairly easy to see in the sort of mixture conifer and cecropia trees. Beautiful birds on this lovely flowers of melastomas in beautiful red leg honey creeper, very common around, and you can easily see them really low. Another endemic, Fernandina flicker. If we're lucky, we can find them like this. And this, once you find a nest, they're really confident and really used to people. And they tell you as well, by the way, the photography opportunities is amazing in these islands. So bring on your camera with you when you are with us exploring the island. Cuban grass squid as well, male and female here. It was the photo's not that great, probably after a few rums. And then, after visiting Pinal del Rio, we're going to hit the central highway. As you can see, really, really straight road that cuts a Cuba in half, from one tip to the other. And this is actually a photo I took last year, and I saw it to this part of media. And you can see all the typical people in bicycles and a 1950s American big car. So we're going to travel a good 3 hours by Havana again towards a beautiful, iconic reserve, the marshes of Zapata. The Zapata's Biosphere Reserve, beautiful marshes. And you can see in the map how big the reserve is in comparison to the whole size of the island. Cuba covers 110,000 square kilometers, to give you an idea. But if you see the size of the Zapata National Park, the marshes, it's just stunning. It's just huge, massive. This is the main entrance. We're going to explore all the area in red, which covers difficult terrain, but also different types of habitats. So we're going to be looking between areas of Atlantic gallery forest and also thorn and thick seasonally flooded forest, and as well salt pans and coastal vegetation areas. The start of this trip, and we can easily find in the Zapata Peninsula, is the smallest bird on earth, the amazing bee hummingbird. And again, I'll take you to places that we can easily see them meandering around, either in a bird feeder together with a Cuban emerald, but also we'll have chances to see them perch and feeding from native flowers. Amazing bird. A lot of people really is like one of the lifetime birds to see, that you must see before anything else. Also, all the birds like Cuban oriole on the top of the screen we have there, and some of the American migrants, this black-throated blue warbler. Then the accommodation in Cuba, as you can see, is basic. I call it basic, but it's very clean, nice. You have a comfortable bed. The food is really good. The food of Cuba is quite various, as Ed was saying. You know, you've got a mixture of loads of continents and local stuff, and it's quite adaptable to a lot of diets, which is the main thing. So comfortable rooms will take us out to the field, and we're going to go on the seasonally flooded forest or gallery forest, which produce another two endemics, and these are fantastic quail doves. On top we have blue-crowned quail dove, and at the bottom gray-headed quail dove. A fantastic secretive birds that, putting in effort, we can see them really quietly, and sometimes they come feed literally to our feet. More friend than Dina Flicker, this time out on the ground, male and female. Another fantastic bird, very cryptic owl, as you can see here. This is bare-legged owl or Cuban screech owl, beautiful. And again, we can find them really easily amongst flocks of a lot of American warblers that visit during the winter. We have Swainson's at the bottom here, Swainson's warbler, and on the top we have worm-eating warbler. Sorry, I just blank there. Again, the owl could be found in some spots in this reserve. Some of the ranges are incredibly great to see them. And we have also La Sagra's flycatcher, another endemic birds there. We can also bump into this beautiful Stygian owl and another Cuban endemic, Cuban Niger, roosting during the day on these for the birds. And as I said to you earlier on, we'll have chances to see a bee hummingbird feeding naturally on these beautiful Pipansia flowers. Then moving on a little bit in some of the calcareous coastal bit, very sharp stones there, producing, you know, these banks of cenotes or water, home of Antillean terrapins on top, and another reptile endemic, Cuban crocodile. And as I said to you, the reptiles are fascinating in Cuba. We have this another endemic night lizard or night anole, this blue anole as well, male and female, beautiful things that you know are going to blow our mind and keep us busy every second down there. Another big part of the reserve, and the majority of this habitat, is obviously the marshes of Zapata. We're going to be drifting down the canals very quietly, especially if we're trying to find these birds, Zapata wren, one of the rarest birds on the planet Earth, one of the rarest birds, which a very limited habitat, and no more than a handful of 100 or nearly 100 pairs left in the wild. Also, Zapata sparrow, really easy to see. This is the southern race. We're going to see further afield the northern race, but this one is also very important to see here. And red-shouldered blackbird, another endemic of the marshes. We can bump into some of mammals. I mean, the island is not really rich in mammals in general, but we can bump into these tree hutias, which are something between a massive rat and a beaver. They live near the water and clump together like this on the tree forks, looking at us while passing on the boat. As I said before, reptiles are not the ones to overlook, like this beautiful Baltic lizard on top and a curly tail. Beautiful and very common, easy to see lizards. From the Zapata Peninsula, we travel down towards the Oriente area. Cuba is split in two, the western and the Oriente, or the Eastlands. So we're going to cross this half border here, which is the Sierra de Cubitas, splits the island in half. And we're going to go to Camagüey. Now, Camagüey is a very picturesque and also quite full of spirit town. But we're going to be, you know, exploring this very beautiful and ancient Santonia, as they call town. And after a good rest, the following day, we're going to visit the Sierra del Chorrillos or Nahasa National Park, which is going to produce more endemics like this giant kingbird easily seen along the wires. Big size. It's a flycatcher of the size of a jackdaw. It's very impressive. Cuban raven or Cuban crow as well can be seen here, another endemic. And most of the parrots, as many of in the Caribbean islands, many endemic parrots. We have Cuban Amazon or Cuban Amazon parrots as well. Gundalash hawk, the terror of the forest out there, a very ruthless predator. Is also another bird that we can see here, together with some American warblers in the woods, like this Cape May warbler. But you can see this beautiful raptor, this beautiful accipiter soaring in the skies of this reserve. Cuban palm crow is another bird that we can easily see in this reserve. More Cuban trogons and the beautiful Cuban parakeets. Very noisy birds, but beautiful to watch. As every single country in the Neotropics got this endemic pygmy-owl. Well, this is the Cuban pygmy-owl. Again, quite widespread in the island, together with a beautiful Cuban toddy we're going to see many times, as well as the Cuban trogon. Again, we'll never get tired to see these birds. Cuban vireo as well, very easy to see. Then, after all these overwhelming wildlife and birds and everything, we're going to retire or arrive back to Camagüey to enjoy a little bit of a meandering in town, exploring its people. You know, how do they live a weekend or a day-by-day life, and why not in the evening? Some music are always present in Cuba, everywhere. From there, we're going to move up north, and we're going to cross this huge causeway built stone by stone manually by the revolution. Fidel Castro was saying, just put sand and rocks and we'll get there. So the parapet is 16 kilometers into Cayo Coco. Cayo Coco, it's a beautiful area, as you can see, beautiful beaches. We have a chance to relax there and also enjoy the all-inclusive services of resorts, fantastic food and drinks, and also the wildlife just around from your room. American flamingos, roseate spoonbills, and another endemic, Cuban black hawk, Cuban bullfinch, and this is the northern race of the Cuban or Zapata sparrow. Oh, my favorite warbler, Oriente warbler, another endemic. And some birds are really easy to see, as I said, some endemics. Others, we have to work a bit hard, like this one, Bahama mockingbird. Beautiful as well, really nice. And to close but not the least, this is a very hard bird to see, but we often see it. This is the Cuban gnatcatcher. Beautiful thing, alongside this beautiful West Indian whistling dogs, which as well are really easy to spot, sometimes on trees like this one, very unusual for a dog to be. And some waders as well, like piping plover, which is a very important wader, and things like royal terns, and many more, palm warblers, ovenbird, American palmatories. Oh, you're going to be really busy every day. Our final drive takes us from Cayo Coco all the way up to Havana in 6 hours and 25 minutes. But we're going to break our journey having a lovely lunch along the Central Highway in the very endemic city of Santa Clara. This is where El Che Guevara started took all his troops back to Havana after the triumph of the revolution on the 31st of January of 1958. We're going to have chances to get off here, see the mausoleum, the monument, and why not grabbing some birds like this beautiful red-legged thrush, Antillean pond swifts roaming around. This lovely West Indies woodpecker will be often at the restaurant we were having lunch in Santa Clara. And the Allisonian nollis, Allisonian lizard up on top, and yellow-throated warbler, another of the American warblers that visit the island in the winter. Again, more cuckoos, great lizard cuckoo, and the lovely Cuban peewee. Back in Havana, the very enigmatic city, once the Las Vegas of the USA, big companies or CEOs or rich American people. Obviously, we're going to come back to our beautiful hotel located in a very, very picturesque area of the city, and explore on a city tour the following day, exploring its cities, the main monuments, the main fortresses, um, and all the people's day-by-day life of on the big city of Havana. And why not taking a little look at this beautiful cars like this Audi A1 that you can still find them down there. I think this is 1962 or something like that. Anyway, and why not visiting one of the main producers of Cuba, the cigars? We're going to visit factories to see when people make them, how do they roll them up, and we can enjoy them as well with a glass of rum, probably that evening. So this is Cuba, my friends, and I really hope one day I will be able to show you this in person. So please feel free to ask any questions and any that you go through your mind about this beautiful island. Just let us know, and I'm here to help you happily. In the meantime, I'm going to pass you over to Sarah. I'm going to enjoy my Cuba cigar myself. Good evening.